Hello, and welcome to the Black Eye Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle. I know it's been a while since we've been talking, and I want to offer you my apologies. I have been not well. You know how it is. It gets to be this time of year, the allergies take hold, and, well, all you can do is wait it out. But I am here today. And I am here today because I have been out here in these YouTube streets. Yes, I have. And the discussions about Black women in particular, women in general, Black women in particular, have been troubling. Troubling. But the real issue, and they're talking about, Black men, welfare took Black men out the home, the usual stuff, which this case right here, uh, 1968, King versus Smith, completely debunks what happened with welfare taking women out the home. And let me just say, start out this uh, podcast by saying that this is a direct response to a content creator whose name I will not call, whose channel I will not cite. This is a response to a comment that they made regarding women, Black women in particular, on welfare. And of course, like I said, it was the usual suspects. Welfare took men out the home, took the fathers out the home, broke up the Black family. This is the case that debunks this. And I'm certain if you listen to other channels, you will have known already that this case in 1968 debunks that entire narrative. But the issue that I really had, the statement that got my bonnet in a it just twisted my guts, is that they referred to welfare as something that Black women thrived on. Now, I don't know how many of you have actually lived through the 70s and 80s. I did. And we, in the 70s and 80s, went through something that was just terrible. Terrible. It was called a stagflation. A stagflation. That's what it was called. And what happened in the stagflation, now I had it up here, it's so funny, it's not even trying to come up, was that we had high unemployment, high inflation, high energy prices, high food. I mean, it was all over the world. There was a oil embargo. There was energy crisis. The president of the United States, Jimmy Carter, went on national television and told the American public that they had to make a sacrifice, which meant that in the daytime, in wintertime, by the way, that Americans should turn their thermostat down to 65 degrees in the daytime and 55 degrees at night because of the natural gas shortage. The 70s and 80s were tough. There were lines around the corner for gasoline. Lines. You had a gas day. I don't remember all of it, except that you had your name, or the first letter of your name corresponded with the day that you were allowed to fill up your tank. They were rationing gasoline for your car. And this went on to the 80s. It eased up in the 80s, yes. But those years from 70 to 83 were some tough times. Tough times. And you had churches who were talking about the end of days because there were oil embargoes, there was a revolution. Oh my God, there was a lot going on. The world had just flipped its lid. So I wanted to share this particular article with you, written in 1980, about what 1970s families went through. And I want someone to leave a comment. Leave your opinion in the comments and show me on the diagram where Black women or anybody in particular, the family, thrived off of welfare. I want you to show it to me because maybe I missed it. So the article from the Washington Post, written in 1980 now, because this is the 70s that's going on. So it goes on. Families supported by public welfare programs in the Washington area fell far behind financially during the decade of the 1970s. From 1970 to 78, while the cost of living went up 68%, welfare payments needed to provide food and shelter rose by only 13%. The decline came as the actual number of welfare recipients in the region declined between 75 and 78, reversing a sharp uptrend to the first half of the decade. And then it went on to say about how 151,008 persons in the metropolitan area were supported by two of the largest welfare programs, aid for families with dependent children and general public assistance. Of those, 101,007 were in District Columbia. Now, I want to take the time to help you understand that District of Columbia, the surrounding area, which is the tri-state area, a pretty big representation of the population in the United States. What was here, what is written about here in this article, did not differ in any other area on the East Coast. And if it did, it was minuscule. So you have to think about this. A large population suffered under not only this program, which, by the way, helped you helped you more than it hurt you, but still, you weren't thriving. Okay. It goes on to talk about the study. The average family in the region in 1970 received a monthly payment of $203. By 1978, with the consumer price index up by 68%, the average payment had increased by only 13% to $230. So you think about that. You think about all I described to you: the oil embargo, the price of food going up, energy going up, uh, high unemployment, high inflation, $230. Now you got to understand that with this payment, you had to pay your rent. And if utilities were separate, you had to pay those too. And it might cover anything that your food stamps did not cover. Not to mention that's toiletries and etc. Not to mention that was also money for shoes on your children's feet, clothes on their backs. So imagine that. The reason why I chose this article because it best represents and best destroys the myths that are out there. So here it goes on to read this. Janice Hamilton Outs, who prepared the study from official statistics, said the loss of family buying power came because mothers on welfare are having fewer children who qualify for payments and because financially pressed governments are not increasing benefit levels. Now, we talked about this. And the reason why I'm addressing this paragraph is because one of the statements made was that children out of wedlock having welfare was incentivized women to have children out of wedlock. That's what I was trying to say. It was incentivized. It's encouraged because you get welfare that encourages you to go out there and have more kids. When clearly this article says women were having less children and governments weren't increasing payments. It said as a result is that the plight of welfare supported families is becoming desperate. Even if the lower income people were getting more money if they could qualify for public assistance, they were falling further below the poverty line. Outs researcher, formerly on the staff of Howard University, said the average annual benefits in cash and food stamps in 1978 was $5,100 to four-member families supported under the program of aid to families with dependent children. In 1978, and let me tell you, it did not differ in the 80s, not by much. That figure was only 59% of the adjusted figure of $8,685 that the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics estimated a welfare supported family of four would need in metropolitan Washington to live on a low budget. So if 8,685 dollars is considered low budget, what the heck is $5,100? It goes on to say this: a non-welfare family, so that's the people who don't need any assistance at all, a family of four would need another $3,713 for a total of $12,398 for taxes and healthcare costs, according to the Bureau. So, to be off welfare in 1978 and into the 80s, you needed $12,398. And then if you were on welfare, family of four now, family of four, $5,100. And that's in food stamps and cash. I want the person who said that welfare and food stamps helped Black women to thrive. Because I want to see in the magic that y'all are talking about where the thriving was. And again, 80s, 90s, not a lot of change. Except for the welfare reform in 1996. But that didn't do anybody any favors. So it talked about how they did give a 5% increase, which is, what is 5%? What is 5% of $5,100? What is that? It says here that Marion Barry did raise it up to 5%, and then he tried to raise it again, but the government simply didn't have the money. They couldn't give anymore because there was nothing more to give. And so I want to talk about this part of it. One reason, because it was a drop in the size of families, and they were talking about how it used to be a family of four, and then the size of families dropped down, because one of the issues I had with the entire statement was that Black women were having babies, and this was an incentive. They were not accountable, which is another thing I can't stand. Because every time they went out into the world and had these babies, they got welfare payments. So this proved that that actually didn't happen. And how it proved it is this: although the Outs report did not speculate the reasons for the decline in family size, because there was a decline in the size of the family. It went from being 4 members to 2.8 persons. And he said, although Outs did not speculate on the reasons for the decline in the family size, one apparent possibility is the availability of publicly financed abortions under the Medicaid program that serves welfare recipients. So that means that even though people, there was welfare and welfare recipients and all that kind of stuff, that women weren't necessarily going out there having these babies so they could get welfare payments. In fact, welfare recipients were declining because they had fewer qualifying children. So in this paragraph, they were talking about the caseloads. In the 70s, had 41,000. The caseloads was 63,000. 1978, it went down again to 59,000. And then they go on to talk about how much money each person was getting, payments to individuals, and how it varies throughout the region. And I just want to understand what these people mean when they say black women, and we're talking about black women in particular, were not accountable. I want to understand how living below, like way below the poverty line, was the federal government propping up women to have more babies. I want somebody to help me make sense of that. Show me where I'm wrong. Show me what I'm missing. Because the 70s and 80s were hard times for people in general, black people in particular. So I want somebody to tell me where the thriving was. Tell me where it was. Tell me what I'm missing. Tell me then, in a family of 4, down to a family of 3, down to a family of 2.8, how and who was accountable here? Leave a message in the comments. Let me know what you think in the comments. Because I'm just going to leave it right here. Otherwise, I'm going to get angry. But like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for listening. If you made it with me this far, I do appreciate you. Like, share, and subscribe. All that good stuff.